is Savardis. He's on the move, and they're going to look for Savardis in the corner. Touchdown!
Rowan heading for the touchpad with the lead, and the props will take the men's 400-yard freestyle relay.
Andrews will be in shotgun. He takes the snap, fakes the handoff. He'll throw it down the left sideline. He's got a wide open receiver. He's got the touchdown.
Okay, moving in. Sends one on goal, and he scores!
And it is a power play goal.
Back to pass, middle of the field. The catch is made by Britt. She's off to the races at the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10. Britt is in for the score.
Back on in. Here's Yoxon. Yoxon to the backhand. Trying to go to the front. Makes the move and shot. And he scores!
Smith delivers. And that's hit back toward the mound. Weiss has it in short. He steps on second. And the ball game is over. Massapequa Coast has won the 2023 New York State Little League Baseball Championship. Live from Southshore Little League in Staten Island, New York, the PDF Sports Network is proud to welcome you back into coverage of the 2024 New York State Little League Baseball Championship. In our final game on day 2 of pool play, Southshore Little League takes on Northshore Little League. Good evening, everybody. Once again, my name is Joe Foreman, alongside my broadcast partner, Nicholas Pavona. And Nick, in Game 1, we were treated to a thriller. Massapequa Coast jumped out to an early 2-0 lead over East Greenbush Castleton. EGC got back to within a run, but a big 3-run homer by Keen Rimler was able to put Massapequa Coast ahead by 4. However, in the 6th inning, we saw some late inning magic from EGC. They pulled to within a run, but the call at second base, which ruled the batter out on a 2 RBI double, ultimately derailed the rally. EGC went on to lose by a single run. That being said, it was a thoroughly entertaining game that's going to be very difficult to top.
Yeah, certainly will be difficult to top, but as we mentioned, that was the rematch of the last year's championship game, which also ended in a 1-run contest. And once again, those two teams finishing with a 1-run contest. You just, as we mentioned, hate to see the game end the way it kind of did with that play at second base. And we're still not certain if it was safe or out. It's going to be a lengthy discussion for weeks and weeks to come. But regardless of the fact, now we have the second game here tonight between Southshore and Northshore. Technically, Joe, Southshore is the away team in this game, but it is pretty much a home game for them in this one. And we look at now this scenario for this game. Southshore with the win automatically clinches not only that spot for them, but that means that their game against Massapequa Coast on Thursday is to decide who will win the pool, this side of the pool for this region. And for Northshore, if they're going to win, they would then create a scenario where Southshore could potentially get eliminated on Thursday with the loss of Massapequa Coast.
And speaking of late inning rallies, Southshore yesterday went into the last inning trailing 3-1. They got a well-pitched game, had an even more efficient game pitched against them up until that 6th inning, but a late rally propelled them to victory and puts them in a spot to clinch a spot in the semifinal with a win tonight. And that matchup, as you said, against EGC coming up would be to determine who wins the pool. Effectively, as you said...
Correction, Massapequa.
Massapequa. Effectively, this is a home game for them. They are the road team, as you mentioned. Southshore, the away team. Northshore, the home team. In just a few moments, they will introduce starters on the field. So, Nick, let's get a head start so we're not competing with PA and get the starting lineups.
For Southshore, they're going to lead off with their pitcher, number 22, Vincent Ruggiero. Batting second is the first baseman, number 29, the hero of yesterday's game, Stephen Grippo. Batting third is the shortstop, number 13, Alexander Torres. Batting fourth, the right fielder, number 8, Jake Romero. Batting fifth, the second baseman, number 2, Joe Iraci. Batting sixth, the center fielder, number 17, Chase Curro. Batting seventh, the catcher, number 12, Peter Giacchio. Batting eighth is the extra hitter, number 34, Dylan DeGata. Batting ninth is the third baseman, number 25, Dean Scarangello. Batting 10th, the extra hitter, number 20, Zach Weiss. Batting 11th, the left fielder, number 21, Nicholas McLean. And batting 12th, the extra hitter, number 7, Jason Raccio.
And while we have a few extra moments, let's flip the lineup card over and get the starters for Northshore.
And for Northshore, they're going to lead off with their catcher, number 15, Ben McNally. Batting second is the shortstop, number 31, Rainier Mejia. Batting third is the third baseman, number 13, Dylan Waltz. Batting fourth, the extra hitter, number 48, Logan McGarren. Batting fifth, the left fielder, number 12, Aiden White. Batting 6th, the pitcher, number 17, Will Weingartner. Batting 7th, the extra hitter, number 18, Jude Ryan. Batting 8th is the first baseman, number 16, Dylan Zarella. Batting 9th, the second baseman, number 1, Liam McGrath. Batting 10th is the right fielder, number 14, Houston Laley. And rounding out the order, batting in the 11th spot is the center fielder, number 2, Harrison Miller.
Thank you, Nick. And Nick, for both of us, we will be getting our first look at Southshore this year. Neither of us covered that game yesterday. Southshore is actually the only team that I have not seen yet. I have now covered 7 of the 8 teams that have competed in pool play thus far over the last 2 days. So I'm getting my first look at the host team tonight. And you can see it, Nick, assembled behind the third base dugout. A very strong contingent in support of Southshore. This, of course, their home facility. That's to be expected. Shifting our attention over to Northshore, that's a team that I did get the chance to cover yesterday. And they only had 2 hits in their loss against Massapequa Coast. It was a convincing win for Massapequa in that game. And if you're Northshore, obviously you would like to do better at the plate, but they did give up 10 runs on 19 hits as well. A lot they need to improve on, and I think that's reflected in their lineup. We often don't see many changes in the lineup from day 1 to day 2, but for Northshore, they've shuffled players around quite a bit in their lineup. It's looking a lot different from yesterday.
Yeah, I think for Northshore, you're looking at the scenario where obviously a loss tonight will end your chances in this tournament. So you have to kind of shake things around and make sure that maybe you can get the most effective at-bats in this game. Now, for North Shore, we mentioned it earlier in the first game of our broadcast. They were up 2-1 through 3 going into that third inning against Massapequa Coast. The inning got away from them. They allowed 4 runs. They would trail 5-2 after that inning. They would not be able to come back in that game. There was a lot of things you liked from North Shore in that game against Massapequa Coast when it came down to in some innings they were able to, it doesn't look like it on the scoreboard with the 19 hits that they did allow. But for the most part, throughout the early on stages of that game, they were keeping Massapequa Coast off the base path. The problem was later on, as that game kept going on, Massapequa Coast finally got their hits going. They got a lot of at-bats in that game, and it led to them having that big win 10-3. So now North Shore comes into the night, obviously, as we mentioned, in a must-win scenario to keep their season alive.
Well, for North Shore, I think the toughest thing about that game yesterday is that they led 2-1, and it's not often that you see a game where you led by a run early, albeit in the second inning, get away from you, and to go on and lose by 7 is certainly disappointing. But as we've said more than once already today, you can completely flip the narrative with a win on day 2 after a loss on day 1.
We saw that earlier on at Great Kills today. That was the narrative in that one.
Exactly, and if you're North Shore, this is a must-win game.
Right.
So I think that added bit of pressure actually helps you in this spot. I'm not sure you need it, but I think if you're going to lose on day 1, you prefer to be in a position on day 2 where you have to win, because it's subconscious in the human mind. You have that extra bit of hope where if you lose a game, you can advance. I think that hurts you. They're in a must-win. It's day 2 of pool play, and they're taking on the host. It doesn't get much bigger than this in prime time at the host team's facility.
Yeah, it's a tough game that they're going to be going out here tonight, but maybe they're looking to play the spoiler for this game. But, Joe, we're going to have the national anthem, so we'll cut it to break.
We'll step aside for 30 seconds and have first pitch when we come back. Joe Foreman back with you alongside Nick Bavona from Southshore Little League, as we are just moments away from first pitch between Southshore Little League and their opponent on day 2 of pool play, Northshore Little League. And before we headed to break for the national anthem, we were talking about how Northshore could potentially flip the script and change the narrative around their appearance in this tournament with a win tonight. But not to be lost in all of that is that they did surrender 10 runs in their first game. If Northshore does pull off the win tonight, Nick, they're going to become very big fans of Massapequa Coast. When Massapequa Coast takes the field against Southshore on Thursday, they would probably need a Massapequa Coast win in that game in order to leapfrog Southshore, which could potentially win 2 games by defeating Massapequa Coast on Thursday. I hate to get ahead of myself, but it's a lot more interesting when you don't have 2 teams in a pool that are 2-0. It makes things much more open when we arrive on Thursday. So we'll see what happens, but if you're Northshore, first and foremost, you have to take care of business tonight. If you're Southshore, you would love to clinch a spot in the semifinal in front of your quote-unquote home fans.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to it for Southshore, we saw them get off to that slow start in yesterday's game. Obviously, just 1 run through 5 innings, obviously getting their 3 runs in the 6th. That gave them that 4-3 win. So for Southshore in this game, they obviously want to get the ball rolling in the first couple of innings and get some early runs. That way they can put the pressure on Northshore and not have to stress as the game goes along. But for Northshore, the other side of things, we mentioned it already. It's a must-win for them in this game. You obviously don't want to look ahead to breaking out the scenarios where it might happen on Thursday or not. But that's what happens when you have a tournament. You have to break down some of these things and figure out what could potentially happen in the next upcoming days. But for these 2 teams tonight, it's simple. First, get the job done here tonight for either one, and then worry about Thursday in the next couple of days.
Well, Balloon just made a point in the live chat that I think bears repeating. Though Northshore and Southshore are facing off tonight, they are not in any way intertwined geographically. They are not close. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. But nonetheless, Southshore, the visitors on their home field tonight, and they will step up to the plate shortly. We've been seeing quite a few warm-up cuts and tosses around the infield as we are now past 8 p.m., so we should have first pitch any moment. And for the second straight day, we will get to see William Weingartner take the mound for Northshore. Very abbreviated outing yesterday, but he did the job that his team needed and got some outs, keeping his pitch count down late in the game against Massapequa Coast. So the first batter that he will face is Vin Ruggiero, and he is still waiting for his turn at the plate as Northshore continues to toss the ball around the infield, play some long toss in the outfield. This is a very long warm-up, Nick.
Very, very long warm-up.
I'm not quite sure what to say, except perhaps we throw it to another 30-second commercial break. I was ready for my lead-up to first pitch, but it's just not happening at this point.
Let's see. Well, maybe one more throw around, and we'll just decide if we should go to the break.
There are still 4 baseballs on the field, Nick, but we'll stay right here. We're not going anywhere. I'm just not sure why the warm-up's been so extensive. We've been here quite a while following the anthem, but a lot of anticipation surrounding this game, and Southshore is eager to get up there and potentially clinch. And do you think there's any advantage for Southshore with Weingartner having pitched yesterday, or nothing?
I don't know if there's more of an advantage. I think the only advantage they might have is obviously having their home crowd with them. I mean, even them being the road team, it is a quote-unquote home game for this team, and that really can spark a team no matter what, no matter who the pitcher is on the mound or what they're facing in terms of lineup. So maybe that does play a factor in terms of him pitching yesterday, but we kind of saw it in the first game as well. That didn't really play a factor for Massapequa Coast. They were able to throw their pitcher as well after he pitched just yesterday as the same thing. So we'll have to see if that does play a factor.
That's a good point you make, Nick, as the longest pregame warm-up routine that I've seen comes to an end. And we're set for action from Southshore Little League. First pitch from Weingartner on its way. And Ruggiero takes outside for ball 1.
Well, hopefully for Northshore, the warm-ups help them this game. We've seen some errors and some wild pitches cost some teams so far in this tournament, so they don't want to have that happen in this one.
Well, I think Weingartner surpassed his pitch count from yesterday's game during warm-ups today. He had to throw under 20 if he's out here today. He threw more than 20 before this game started, as the count evens up 1-1 on Ruggiero, and he takes outside.
And we also mentioned, obviously, that first game, we saw a bunch of leadoff walks happen in that game. Already 2-1 count here. A little bit early to look about that, but Weingartner's got to avoid that if he wants to have any success against the South Shore lineup. But now, Joe, down in the count 3-1.
Well, you know what I say, Nick, about leadoff walks. I can't hammer it home enough. Comes the 3-1 pitch. And that's outside for ball 4.
Didn't look like he missed by much. A leadoff walk drawn by South Shore, Joe. So looking to see if they can get the first run of this game.
That will bring up Steven Grippo. Grippo, the hero in yesterday's game. Left-handed batter. Fouls that one back. Look out. All the spectators wanted were some concessions, and instead, they got a wake-up call.
Getting a souvenir for just a few moments.
That's pulled toward the right field line, but just foul.
You mentioned, Joe, Grippo, with that go-ahead 2-run double in the top of the 6th, giving South Shore that 4-3 lead. And think about now the scenario that happened. We could be looking at this game could have been a matchup between two 0-1 teams, and that matchup we just had before between two 1-0 teams. So a lot of things drastically changed with that one swing by Grippo.
No question about it, and that's a great point. What you do on day one really sets the tone. And I've spoken plenty about how easily you can change the narrative, but it's tough to bounce back from a lopsided loss on day one. Not an easy thing to do. That being said, Northshore played in the first game yesterday and the last game today.
Yep.
And Plattsburgh played in the last game yesterday and the first game today after a really tough loss last night.
Another tough one, unfortunately, today. Give it that home run in the 7th.
And Grippo finds a seam up the middle, as that was a softly hit line drive that skipped through the infield. And with that, South Shore has the first 2 runners on.
And early on, I think that's what North Shore's got to be a little bit worried about. First 2 runners get on base, and now you got nobody out in the inning. So South Shore already threatening to put the first run of this game on the board.
I think they call that a seeing eye single, Nick. So typically those are on the ground. That one just split the middle infielders. And that will bring up Alex Torres.
Wondering, Joe, would he maybe dare bunt with the cleanup hitter up deck?
I don't think you bunt with your 3-hitter in the first inning.
I don't agree with it either.
Okay, I was making sure.
I wasn't agree with it. I just thought maybe some try to fool the infielders.
Balloon thinks he should bunt.
Okay.
Balloon thinks he should bunt.
Thanks, Balloon. Maybe.
He said it before you did.
Oh, okay.
Only I have the live chat in front of me. Nick does not. Now, I think maybe the approach changes a bit with this being a clinching game, but I am never of the opinion that you bunt with the 3-hitter. Unless you're down by a run late in the game. I am not a fan of bunting. And
did he make contact with that?
I thought he got a piece there, but they're going to say that is strike 3 swinging.
Both runners are going to advance now because of it.
Ball in the dirt. I could have sworn I heard him get a piece, but no protest. And effectively, Nick, that's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy.
Especially now Jake Romero, now the next batter up to plate for South Shore, because now a chance with a single here could bring home 2 runs.
Also engaged in the live chat, Comeback Kid, our colleague Louis Matrone from PDF. Might have to change his YouTube alias to lmatrone_PDF, just so we know who he is.
No one knew who Comeback Kid was. You threw out his government name, so now they know.
Oh, that's true. Count 1 ball and no strikes on the cleanup hitter, Jake Romero. And he looks at ball 1.
We certainly had a
Second
conversation.
ball 2.
We certainly had a conversation with him after that first game and what he thought about that play at second. There's a lot of comments about it, I can say that.
I was trying to make a point of not going back there because we'll talk about it for another 10 minutes.
I know.
But we watched it back at least 3 or 4 times. And we were able, which we can't do on the stream, we were able to run it frame by frame. I think there is a chance it was a tie. My instinct did not change watching it back frame by frame, because what we saw as the batter walks, and the bases are now loaded, Romero is on, but what I saw on the replay, watching it frame by frame, is that the runner's lead leg, his knee, buckled when I believed his foot contacted the bag, and at that point the tag had not been applied. That is what I saw watching it back frame by frame. Now, it's entirely possible, as Joe Iracy swings and misses for strike one, it's entirely possible that the cleat or the spike caught the infield dirt, causing the runner's knee to buckle, but I think the most likely explanation is that his foot hit the base. That's me. That's what I saw watching it back frame by frame, and we had a full screen this time. We did not have that during the game.
Yeah, like I said, after game one, I don't want to harp on it as much because obviously now we're here for the second game.
And that's fouled away.
But it was such a pivotal play, and now you're considering the fact that a huge difference between a 2-0 record and 0-2 record and both teams being 1-1. That's why it's really, that's why we're talking about it so much, because now you're looking at this game where EGC needs North Shore to win to even have a hope.
That will be the last time we mention it, but I wanted to share what we found between games. As there's a big swing and a miss by Iracy for strike three, and Weingartner picks up a huge strikeout.
Needed that strikeout for sure, getting Iracy down, and now it'll be up to Chase Curro, the left-handed batter, with 2 outs. Bases are still loaded, and Weingartner now at 21 pitches in the inning.
That will bring up Chase Curro, the number 6 hitter, and he looks at that pitch high. Weingartner being forced to work hard in this first inning. 22 pitches now. Here comes the 1-0. And that's low for ball 2.
He's got a no man's land right now. Also, the runner's going, and he's safe.
Wow.
They were not paying attention.
Wow. A steal of home. Let's get a second look, Nick.
I lost my wording on that. I could not believe it myself. Heads up base running right there.
I'm not sure I've ever seen that, Nick.
Here's a second look. They threw the ball in. He was looking towards the ground, and the runner just started going.
Incredible.
That's a great heads-up base running play right there, and Southshore gets a very unconventional first run of this game.
Went to my scorecard, lifted my head up, and there was a play at the plate.
Yeah.
Good eye, Nick. Good eye.
I could not believe it myself. Like I said, I was losing my words. I could not believe what's going on.
If there's ever a case for bringing back the monitor, that's it. Wow. It's now a 1-0 game.
It's now a 3-0 count for Curro.
And a 3-0 count. A walk, were it not for the stolen base, would have forced home a run. Or would force home a run. Now we can speak in that tense. Would have forced home a run. And Nick, what am I going to say?
That first walk, it happened again.
Yep. Leadoff walk. And now the third walk of the inning with that last base on balls. And
do we have maybe a pitching change so early? I don't know if they're going to do it early or not.
I think they are making a pitching change. I thought I saw the lineup card come out of the pocket, but I might be mistaken, as right now it does not look like the baseball has been taken from Weingartner.
Peter Giacchio now is going to come up to the plate with bases loaded and 2 outs.
Long conversation at the mound here. The umpire heading out now to break it up and
Weingartner's
no pitching change.
Stay in. Yeah, he'll stay into the game.
And Nick, it's early. It's the first inning. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but now I think what happens the remainder of this inning becomes completely pivotal.
Yeah, he really could use that final third out. If you can hold the damage just 1 run, you'll definitely take that. But 1 swing from Giacchio right here could change this game, and the impact, it goes a long way.
And that's hit a mile high. Shallow left, 2 defenders there, and it is the shortstop, Mejia, who makes the catch. And a collective sigh of relief from the North Shore contingent.
Relief.
That'll do it for the top half of the first. Southshore settles for one. It comes home on a steal of home. And we head to the home first with a 1-0 score.
Awards and Trophy Center is proud to sponsor this week's New York State Little League Championship. Located at 1600 Highland Boulevard on Staten Island, we pride ourselves in not only building trophies, but building relationships as we service our community and treat you like family. Your event and its achievements deserve the best. That's why Country Awards and Trophy Center is ready to work with all of our clients to make your event a memorable one. With awards, trophies, and gifts that make a lasting impression. Come see why we love our customers and they love us. Visit us today.
And we are back from Southshore Little League, where the host, Southshore, the away team in this game, leads by a score of 1-0. And Nick, to recap that first inning, leadoff walk, single, strikeout, a second walk, a second strikeout, the stolen base, steal of home, to make it a 1-0 game, a third walk, and then what was a very precarious P6 ends the inning and brings Northshore to the plate for the first time.
And think about the guy that got the walk and let everything off. The pitcher on the mound for Southshore today, Vincent Ruggiero, he gives himself an early cushion with that 1-0 lead. But as I mentioned, heads-up base running. He saw the pitcher was not looking towards home plate and decided to run as soon as the catcher threw it right back to him, and just got in before the tag was made at the plate. So heads-up base running leads to this early 1-0 lead for Southshore.
I've covered a lot of baseball, a lot of softball, and I don't think I've ever seen a steal of home.
I don't think I have either.
I've been doing this now, got my start in I'm entering year 10 in March of next year. So next year begins my 10th year. So I'm closing in on 9 years doing this. I've never seen a steal of home. And that's 9 full collegiate seasons with the exception of 2020, which was wiped out. So long time. Some things you still haven't seen. We've now seen a steal of home. And Northshore will look to rebound after giving up a run in the first inning. That being said, Nick, another extensive warm-up on the infield here. So while we have a moment, we'll bring a message from one of our sponsors. We want to recognize K&S Industrial, a major sponsor and one of our new sponsors for this week's tournament. K&S Industrial is your all-in-one supply and tool store for commercial, industrial, and domestic industries. A leader in HVAC supply stores, K&S provides various building and maintenance supplies for office buildings, industrial plants, schools, homes, and more. Check them out today at ksindustrial.com. That is ksindustrial.com. If they make it, K&S sells it. Check out K&S Industrial, sponsor of the 2024 New York State Little League Baseball Championship. Nick,
still going.
There's time for one more if we had another. But, boy, I'm not sure why the first inning warm-ups have been so long. Perhaps when they were soaking the infield, the teams got shorted some warm-up time. But that's the only explanation I can think of. And I saw them out there very early. I don't think that's what happened. So we're still waiting for the bottom half of the first inning to get underway. And as the umpire dusts off home plate, I think we're close. Due up for Northshore, McNally, Mejia, and Waltz.
Well, I think, obviously giving up that first run of the game, certainly not a great start for Northshore, especially the way they gave it up. But the fact that they, bases were loaded in the inning and they were able to escape it with just giving up the one run, that's certainly something that they have to look forward to and saying, okay, you know what, it could have been worse. Now it's time to get our bats going here in the bottom half of the inning and try to tie this game and take the lead potentially.
Well, Mike wants to know what's up, and we'll let him know after this first pitch to Ben McNally. And McNally takes low. So for Mike and anyone else in the live chat who's just joining us, top half of the first, walk, single, strikeout, a second walk, a steal of home, a second strikeout, a walk to reload the bases, and a pop out caught by the shortstop in shallow left field. So that's a recap of the top half of the first inning once again in very abbreviated form as the count evens up at 1-1 on Ben McNally, the Northshore catcher. He fouls away that pitch. 1-2. McNally in yesterday's game was 1 for 3. So I mistakenly said that North Shore had just 2 hits yesterday. They had 3. McNally had one of those. It came in the 3rd inning. He was stranded in scoring position at second. Comes the 1-2 pitch. There's a big swing and a miss for strike 3. Ruggiero brought the heat on that one, Nick.
Sounded like maybe he got a tip of the ball with that swing, but did not matter. That fastball was thrown perfectly by Ruggiero for the first out of this inning.
Renner Mejia will be the batter. Mejia was 0 for 3, batting out of the leadoff spot yesterday. And I mentioned it during the pregame, but a lot of changes in this North Shore lineup in terms of the batting order. They shuffled everyone around. As that's off the glove of the catcher, and it gets away. Nonetheless, it's ball 1. Peter Giacchio behind the plate for South Shore tonight. And he's going to have a word with his starting pitcher. Mejia got the start on the mound in yesterday's game for North Shore. Escaped trouble in the first, but was unable to do so as North Shore went on to allow runs in each of the next 3. That's taken low as I don't know if Ruggiero's lost the hat or is adjusting the hat.
Might be adjusting it.
We know that the flow can wreak havoc.
Oh, yes it will.
On the headwear. And that's chopped on the infield in foul ground.
Now, while South Shore might be the home, they have the home ballpark and they have a lot of spectators on their side, the North Shore dugout is getting very loud, Joe, during these at-bats. They are trying to hype up their teammates as well as their spectators here tonight. So they're trying to make sure Mejia can get on base here.
And when you go back following these games and look at the numbers on the stream, you can tell which teams had the ability to travel more easily, because the games where the teams had a tough time making the trip, those have much, much higher numbers, and you can see it reflected in the stands. South Shore has their side packed as Mejia calls for time. But we've seen great support each of the last 2 years for a lot of the teams that have made the trip down. And Lewis, I am in the headband tonight, as that pitch is swung on and missed. And the count runs full.
Is there a reason he asked you that question?
Well, he said that Ruggiero needs the chief headband.
Oh, okay.
The headband foreman is back. We cut the hair for our athletic awards dinner where I'm employed, as that's grounded to short off the backhand, and the throw to first is not in time. So that's another one of those 50-50 balls.
I would give that a hit.
Torres had to play it on the backhand. It was hit pretty hard, so Mejia will be credited with a single. But I cut my hair back in May when we hosted our athletic awards ceremony at the College of Staten Island, where I'm employed. The hair has not been cut since, and headband foreman is indeed back as we work on regaining the flow. Number 3 hitter Dylan Waltz at the plate, and he takes outside.
Second look at that last play. The infield single from Mejia to get the first runner on the base for North Shore.
Waltz, a left-handed batter, head 1-0, looks at a strike. Count even at 1. Taking evasive action was Waltz. Count now, 2 balls and 1 strike. You said it, Nick. I'm not sure what's going on in the North Shore dugout, but there's a lot of noise, and it appeared Waltz believed that he was hit by that pitch, but instead it's a wild pitch that goes to the backstop, allowing Mejia to advance.
Well, listen, when you have an opposing dugout acting like that and making some noise, it can affect the pitcher sometimes, and that led to a wild pitch, it looks like.
One might say they have that dog in them, Nick. I'm hearing some barks from down there in the dugout. And Waltz thought he had ball 4, but the home plate umpire says otherwise. He went around, so Waltz is called back, and that doesn't help you on a 3-2 count.
I thought he also had ball 4.
It was a ball, but he went around. It was close. But to take that jog ahead of a 3-2 pitch doesn't always bode well for the hitter. Here comes the 3-2. And that's looked at for a called strike 3.
Big strikeout right there from Ruggiero to get the second out of the inning, as that runner remains on second base for Northshore.
That will bring up extra hitter Logan McCarron. And Nick, yesterday McCarron drew a walk in his first at-bat, homered in his second at-bat. He was hitting out of the number 11 spot in the order. That's cleanup tonight.
Big spot for him early in this game as well now, with that runner, that tying run at second base, and then being the go-ahead run early in the first.
Manager Gus Mejia had to have liked what he saw from McCarron yesterday, bumping him all the way up to the number 4 spot. He went up the ladder after that fastball for strike 1.
Trying to make contact with that one, get that one into the outfield for a potential extra base hit. Once again, Ruggiero with a good velocity on that one to get that first strike.
Count even, 1 ball and 1 strike. And McCarron takes one at the knees. Boy, Nick, I don't know. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
He is perplexed. I'll tell you that. And McCarron is a tall hitter. The dugout certainly didn't think so. Comes the 1-2. And that gets away. Play at third. And the runner is safe. Mejia just got in there, Nick.
That was the right call. He got under the tag. A great play. Good slide from Mejia at third base. And now a single will surely bring home that run.
I'm taking a look right now at the Southshore defensive alignment. And look at how their outfield is shifted, Nick.
Yeah, they are playing mostly towards the right.
Yep.
Well, remember, that's where the home run went, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday.
I think he hit it to center, but I'm not sure.
I would say right center field is
right
where he
center?
hit it.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's a bit tough to gauge that perspective from here because, if I recall, the ball landed directly to the right of the scoreboard. So you could say that's right center. He definitely didn't pull it, that's for sure.
It went off one of the trees, almost basically hitting the scoreboard itself.
Yeah. It's a good shot. In this inning, Nick, we've had 2 wild pitches. Those have allowed Mejia to go from first to third. The count is now full on McCarron, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Aiden White on deck. Mejia represents the tying run over at third. Ruggiero comes set and delivers. And that's it on the ground, back to the mound, off the glove of Ruggiero, and Southshore has no play.
That's a big break for Northshore right there, Joe. They get that hit. I think maybe I don't know. It's
Replay
tough.
will determine. We'll watch it
It's
back.
tough because
the infield camera will give us a great look.
It was a hard hit ball. It seemed like off the glove.
Let's get a look on replay following this next pitch. Either way, Northshore has tied the score at 1 on a ground ball back to the mound. McCarron is on for the 3rd time in as many at-bats over the last 2 days, and Aiden White takes strike 1.
He was in position, but I can't tell if because of how hardly hit the ball was, that maybe that's why it went off of his glove.
I'm inclined to give that a hit because the ball off the bat seemed to me that it was hit decently hard. The question is, if he doesn't field it, is there any chance it gets up the middle?
I think it would.
Well, then it's a hit.
Yeah.
Then it's a hit because if it's hard enough to get through the middle infielders, that can't be ruled an error. So we'll give it a hit.
I think the only way you might not consider is because the shortstop Torres was going in that direction of where the ball was hit, so maybe he would have had a chance to make the play. But who knows? But regardless, Joe, they do tie the game now as Ruggiero gets the strikeout to end the bottom of the first.
White goes down swinging to end the first inning, but not before North Shore ties the score on an RBI single by Logan McCarron. He is now 2 for 2 in 3 official at-bats thus far. His team is even at 1-1.
Attention local businesses and professionals. Isn't it time to elevate your game? Now you can advertise your business or product on PDF Sports Network. Your ad will appear on all of our broadcasts, including this one. Don't have a commercial? We'll make one for you, absolutely free. What better way to showcase your product and brand while supporting the best local sports, teams, and leagues? Call now at 732-723-8189 or visit us at pdfsportsnet.com.
And we're back from South Shore Little League. Our score even at 1 run per side after what was a very entertaining first inning and following what was a thrilling first game. This game has a lot of hype to live up to, Nick. So far, so good.
Yeah, it's been off to a great start. Both teams getting a run in the top of the first and the bottom of the first inning. So now we head to the top of the second with a 1-1 score. We've already talked about the importance of this game for both of these teams, but they're showing it so far out on the field, and we've gotten some good timely hits from these teams as well with runners in scoring position. And also with South Shore getting that stolen base of home.
That play, as I mentioned earlier, one I've never seen before. And North Shore with an appropriate response. As I mentioned earlier, they only had 3 hits in the game yesterday, already 2 in this game. So a good start for them at the plate. And South Shore, in their half of the second, will send 8, 9, and 10 to the plate. DeGata, Scarangello, and Weiss. Final warm-up toss from Weingartner, and the throw down to second has us set for the top half of inning number 2. Another left-handed batter as well in Dylan DeGata, extra hitter for South Shore. He will lead things off. We've seen a lot of lefties these last 2 days. I don't recall this many left-handed bats last year.
No, it was very minimal.
Yeah. And you can tell the South Shore batters being announced with a bit of extra flair.
Yeah.
As that pitch misses away for ball 1. Well, the walks really hurt North Shore in the first inning. They need Weingartner to rein in his control and force South Shore to swing the bats, and they get a swing and miss there as DeGata has a 1-1 count.
Funny enough, Joe, both pitchers finished with 26 pitches in that first inning, the exact same amount.
That's fouled off, and obviously if you're a spectator and taking in that South Shore game yesterday, the takeaway is that they had a thrilling comeback win. But not to be lost in that was, what for them anyway, was an offensive struggle for much of that game. As that pitch is swung on and missed for strike 3, and DeGata goes down on strikes.
And I think that's where North Shore is thinking going into this game, knowing to themselves that they saw the struggles that South Shore had for most of that game yesterday. So if they're able to, not give up the walks that they allowed in that first inning, then they'll have a chance in this game. Obviously, they gave up the walks and it allowed that first run to come in.
That ball popped up on the infield, and calling for it and making the grab is the second baseman McGrath for out number 2.
But for North Shore now, for this scenario, obviously, getting the 2 hits and tying the game now makes it a brand new ball game. If they can keep South Shore off the base path without giving up those walks and maybe try to force them to swing the bat and obviously not give them hits, then they'll have a good chance to win this game.
And if you're North Shore, wouldn't you love a very quick 1-2-3 inning to get that pitch count down for Weingartner and to get right back to the plate with a chance to take the lead?
Yeah.
At the plate now, Zach Weiss. Dean Scarangello was retired quickly on the pop-up to second as the count evens up on Weiss at 1 ball and 1 strike. Here comes the 1-1. And that's hit right back to the mound. Great snag by Weingartner, and the side is retired on just 8 pitches. A quick 1-2-3 inning for the North Shore starter. His team comes right back to the plate with the score even at 1.
When it comes to sports, why be good when you can be legendary? At Legend Sporting Goods in Brooklyn, we service the community with only the best custom apparel, embroidery, and service, specializing in youth sports, so that the leaders of today become the legends of tomorrow. We're proud to support all of this week's great athletes and invite everyone to check us out and make us a part of your team. Come see why Legend Sporting Goods is in a class by itself. Visit us online or call us now.
And we're back from South Shore Little League, where North Shore will come to the plate in a tie ball game, 1 run per side. Due up for the home club, 6, 7, and 8, Weingartner, Ryan, and Zarella.
And speaking of Weingartner, how about that last inning, Joe? Needing just 8 pitches to get a 1-2-3 top of the second after throwing 26 in that first. So we mentioned about the walks being an issue for him in that first. Good bounce back from him back in that second inning. And now he'll look to lead it off here in the bottom half of the second.
Harkening back to the Knicks broadcast team and Clyde Frazier, I'd call that first inning a laborious first inning on the mound for Weingartner, but very quick second inning. And that gets him right back on track in terms of pitch count. And if you're North Shore, you love to see that, because should you go on to win this game, obviously you are playing for your tournament lives on Thursday and want to have as much pitching available as you can. Meanwhile, returning to the mound for South Shore is Vin Ruggiero. And he gave up a couple of hits in that first inning. Limited the damage to 1 run. 2 wild pitches, Nick, and you know what I say about that all the time.
Those free passes will hurt you. It's going to haunt you at the end of the day.
Well, the 2 wild pitches are the reason that Mejia was able to score on an infield base hit. Ruggiero just threw his final warm-up toss, as once again, it just seems like these pre-inning warm-ups have extended a bit beyond what we've seen so far this week.
Maybe. Let's see. It does seem that to be the case.
Either way, William Weingartner makes his way to the plate. He reached on an error in his first at-bat yesterday, came around to score. He then struck out in the very next inning. And that's even more striking looking back at that game yesterday. The big win for Massapequa Coast over North Shore saw one of their hitters, that being a North Shore batter, getting plate appearances in back-to-back innings. It's not often you do that and don't win the game.
Just shows how Massapequa Coast's offense was doing. Because while North Shore was getting a lot of those, opportunities, it's not Massapequa Coast. We mentioned it a bunch, but a great offensive performance they had yesterday.
Weingartner still waiting for the first pitch, Nick.
And here it comes.
And it's on the inside corner for a called strike.
I think they were waiting for one of the umpires to come out of the field.
That'll do it. Count 0-1 on the North Shore pitcher, and he swings and misses for strike 2.
Looked like he was a little bit late on that fastball. There's Ruggiero once again getting it right past the hitter, and he's quickly up in the count 0-2.
For those in the chat asking, Massapequa Coast won this tournament last year. They are currently 2-0 in pool play this year, and with a South Shore win would clinch a spot in the semifinal. Count now 1-2 on Weingartner. That pitch misses down and away.
And as we mentioned on Thursday, they will face this South Shore team at Great Kills. The first matchup of that doubleheader that we have at Great Kills.
Count even at 2. And that's low. In that first inning, I neglected to mention that Ruggiero struck out the side. We also had a 4-strikeout inning earlier today. And it's now 4 strikeouts for Ruggiero.
A very lengthy at bat. Bud does get the strikeout to start off the inning as he retires his opposing pitcher for the first out.
For those asking, yes, you can watch replays of all of last year's games via YouTube.
They're in a playlist.
Just search PDF Sports Network. All of those games are on YouTube in their entirety, in order, with very limited breaks. A lot of the breaks in those games had to be removed due to copyright issues. So the games posted in their entirety. If you'd like to view the games that occurred beyond the New York State Championship, I think those are on ESPN+.
I think so as well.
You'd have to dig. I'm not sure if they archive those games, but if they are archived, that's where you'd find them. This year's games as well, yes. PDF Sports Network on YouTube. The games were actually chopped up earlier today. Now, they just announced a batter mid-at bat, didn't they, Nick?
They did.
Okay.
That has happened a couple times today.
At the plate here is Jude Ryan, extra hitter for Northshore. He's behind 0-2. And he chops one on the ground towards second, handled cleanly, and the throw to first is in time.
So Northshore's first two batters have gone down in the inning, Joe. They have forced Ruggiero to throw some pitches in this inning. He's thrown already 11. After we saw a quick top half data from Weingartner. These have been long at bats so far to start off this bottom of the second, but Zarello now comes up with 2 away. It's still nobody on base.
Dylan Zarella, the batter. Zarella in yesterday's game did have one of the 3 hits, had a run batted in. And he looks at ball 1. Here comes the 1-0. And that's in at the knees for a strike. So Ruggiero looking to match his counterpart with a 1-2-3 inning. And there's a swing and a miss for strike 2.
Well, we've seen him throw that fastball. That one looked more off speed. Zarella was definitely out in front on that one. Now behind the count 1-2.
Ruggiero a strike away from a quick inning of his own. And that was swung on and missed. It ends up at the backstop. And a great bounce for Southshore allows them to complete the putout at first. Vin Ruggiero now has 5 strikeouts in the game. He's recorded 6 outs through 2, and we remain even at 1 run per side.
This tournament would not be possible without the great support of the Staten Island Advance. Not only does the Staten Island Advance have full coverage of the tournament, but we are committed to covering Island youth sports year-round and all news close to home. Pick up the paper today and look for great subscriber deals now for our loyal readership. Visit us online at silive.com for news and photos of this week's tournament and all the breaking news on Staten Island, the nation, and the world. The news of Staten Island is the Staten Island Advance and silive.com.
And we're back from Southshore, where we begin the top half of the 3rd inning at some point in the near future. Depends on how long the warm-up goes.
Let's see how long these warm-ups go.
We'll look ahead to the Southshore hitters coming to the plate in this spot.
I'll clock it now for you, Joe. 8:42. Let's see what time it starts.
8:42. All right. They have 11, 12, and 1 due up. McLean, Rocchio, and Ruggiero.
I will say, though, it does look like we're going to be going any minute. They'd have to throw down to second.
Any minute's not saying much, Nick. That could be 2 minutes from now.
That could be. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Meanwhile, on the mound for North Shore, William Weingartner had a very clean 1-2-3 second inning. Strikeout, grounded to second. Oh, that's the other side of the scorecard. My mistake. Strikeout, pop-up to second. And a 1-3 putout on a nice grab that he made on a ball hit straight back to the mound. Nicholas McLean looks at strike 1.
Might be McLean, Joe. I think I heard the PA announcer say McLean. Could be wrong.
Well, I'll tell you, we did go to the coaches for pronunciations.
So if it's that, then I'll go by that.
It wasn't written
Okay.
next to his name that there's anything we should be on the lookout for. That being said, I'm pretty sure their PA announcer would know. So if the PA announcer here is saying McLean, then it's probably McLean. We did have to divide and conquer for the pronunciations. I went to 2 teams. Dave went to 2 teams. Aaron went to a couple of teams. We had to finish it off last night. Yep.
Looked like a fan with my book and my papers and pen.
You very much looked like an autograph seeker.
Yeah. No shame in that.
Well, it depends.
Oh, okay.
Comes a 3-1 pitch, and that's in for a strike. Count now full on the number 11 hitter for Southshore. They're looking for a leadoff base runner. And they've got it.
Joe, there it is again. Leadoff walk to start the inning.
Yep. It takes everything in me, and it doesn't matter which side issues the walk, not to give a deep exhale into the mic every time there's a leadoff walk.
With the top of the lineup batting next, Joe, this is where I could see the bunt definitely happening.
Yes.
Corner infielders are in.
Yes.
But they don't show it.
I could certainly get behind a bunt in this spot. 100%.
Now he shows it.
And it's a good one. Play it first.
Safe.
And the runner is safe. Runner headed for third as well. And the throw is not nearly in time. That's going to go down as a bunt single, as there was a foot race to the bag over at first. And with that, McLean was able to capitalize and go first to third.
Small ball working right there for Southshore. And once again, Joe, heads up base running from this team, as Weiss was able to go from first to third on that chopper down the first base line.
And just like that, the go-ahead run stands at third with nobody out. Top of the order at the plate. Vin Ruggiero with a chance to help his own cause. That's a letter-high strike.
Second look at that last play. Great bunt laid down the first base line. Good hustle as well. As I mentioned, great base running from Weiss.
That pitch misses away.
A correction, Joe. Now Weiss, McLean.
Keep an eye on the runner at third as well. We already had one steal of home, and these Southshore base runners are dancing. That's fouled back.
As you mentioned, that one steal of home was by the man at the plate.
There's Balloon, a Keith Hernandez fan, with the declaration of good fundies on the bunt. I'm a Phillies fan, but I love the Mets broadcast team. A lot of Gary Cohen in the way I call the game.
Yeah.
As that pitch misses. No. I thought the umpire signaled inside. I certainly didn't think it was a ball or a strike. I didn't have an opinion in either direction, but I thought I saw the umpire motion inside, and then he punched Ruggiero out.
Yeah, Ruggiero was not happy with that call. He thought that was inside as well. That's a huge out recorded by Northshore and Weingartner for the first out of the inning. Now a double play ball for getting out of this one.
That is a massive out. Is that pitch?
And never mind, Joe. The second double play, not going to happen anymore.
Pitch was swung on, missed, and dropped. You know, I've seen so far in these last 2 days an inordinate amount of dropped strikes. We've seen that a lot. As that pitch misses low, and many times I've thought that a ball was foul tipped and then ricocheted off the catcher's glove when in fact it was just dropped. So on to second goes Rocchio. And Stephen Grippo is now ahead 2-1.
Think about the different, style of this inning. Last inning for Weingartner, he only needed 8 pitches to get a 1-2-3 inning. Since that inning is happening, he's thrown a lot more and is in danger of giving up runs, and that might be it, Joe.
That's a no-doubter, Nick. Forget it. That ball is long gone as Stephen Grippo continues his heroics a big RBI hit in the 6th inning yesterday, and a go-ahead 3-run homer here on day 2 of pool play.
And you knew right off the bat that Grippo got a good piece of that one. And you mentioned a no-doubter into right field. The heroics in yesterday's contest, and now potentially heroics here again. Southshore takes a 4-1 lead.
Grippo with a 3-run blast, and that hit off of the overhang covering the seating in center field. But off the bat, Nick, you could hear that one, as I believe they just appealed over at first. So, Nick, let's get a look at that replay from the infield perspective. The appeal was unsuccessful, but...
Were they saying he didn't touch first base?
Well, no. They ruled the appeal unsuccessful, but they did appeal.
Uh-huh.
I believe. I could be mistaken, but we'll get a look on replay.
I have it queued up. We'll play it after this next pitch.
After this next pitch, we'll get a look over at first base.
I think that they're saying maybe he didn't touch the bag.
Well, that would be what the reason for the appeal was.
Right.
There's a swing and miss
by
Alex Torres. Let's get a look.
Looks like he touched it.
I didn't see anything there that would lead me to believe otherwise. So Southshore has jumped out to a 4-1 lead. And that's hit well out to left, but it looks like Torres just got under it. And White makes the catch. What do they want down there on the concourse?
I thought they were saying, it sounds like fish sticks, but I could be completely wrong about that.
Did they sell out of fish sticks at the snack stand?
Maybe.
I'm not sure I've ever heard a legion of children chanting, "We want fish sticks."
I mean, I could be completely wrong. That's maybe not what they're chanting, but that's what it sounds like at least.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. First pitch taken by Jake Romero.
I don't know if there was a signal if it was a ball or not.
There was not a signal.
It's a ball.
Okay. If there's no signal, I assume ball. But the home plate umpire has been very good about indicating where the pitch missed, as that pitch is swung on and missed.
Hey, listen, they want fish sticks. They go right to the concourse to see if they have any still.
If the snack stand, all right, we want Vincent. Maybe?
Maybe.
I did not hear Vincent, but Balloon suggested maybe we want Vincent.
Sure.
As that's hit well to the opposite field, and that is caught along the line in the right field corner for the final out in the road third inning. But not before Stephen Grippo gives Southshore the lead with a mammoth 3-run shot. Our score now 4-1 in favor of Southshore.
The Staten Island Ferry Hawks are proud to be a sponsor of this year's New York State Little League Championship, because one championship organization deserves another. Come check out another amazing season with us at Staten Island University Hospital Community Ballpark with great ticket and group deals, theme nights, and fireworks displays. Good luck to all of our teams this week from your friends at the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. We'll see you at the game.
And we are back from Southshore Little League, where the host, Southshore, has jumped in front by 3 runs on a 3-run blast by Stephen Grippo and Nick. Northshore not exactly in dire straits yet, but we are approaching that point quickly with them now trailing by 3 runs in a must-win game.
Yeah, big blast from Grippo on that previous half inning to give them now a 3-run cushion. So if you look at this inning come out from Northshore, you definitely could use some runs. Yeah, I agree. It's maybe too early to say that it's a dire need to get the run scored, but not a lot of innings left to go for them in this one. So if they can cut into this deficit, someone maybe get a run or two, they'll have they'll stay alive in it. But they've been having trouble hitting Ruggiero's fastball these last couple of innings, so it'll be tough to see if they can get some hits on the board.
Well, Nick, going back to how that inning started is obviously the big takeaway is the Grippo home run. The inning opened with a walk. Obviously, you know how I feel about the leadoff walks at this point. Then you put Southshore in a situation where they can lay down a sacrifice bunt. A tremendous bunt goes for a hit. A job well done by Jason Rocchio to bunt for a single. He won the foot race to first base. And all of a sudden now, you have runners on the corners due to some great heads-up base running by the batter who initially drew the walk in Nicholas McLean. So a job well done all around by Southshore in that inning culminates with the home run. And we're set to begin the home third as the music is cut. And making his way to the plate is the number 9 hitter, Liam McGrath. Due up behind him, Houston Laley and Harrison Miller for Northshore. Now trailing by 3. Still plenty of time left in this game, but they need to get to work here against Vin Ruggiero. And McGrath takes a strike.
It'd be big for them as well. If they can get some runners on base, they'll go back to the top of the lineup in this inning. So let's see if the bottom half of the order can do something here for Northshore.
McGrath in yesterday's game, officially 0 for 1, drew a walk. He has an even 1-ball-1 strike count here. Here's the 1-1. That's fouled straight back.
Another chance, something else now.
Sounded like we want Joey. That one came through a bit more clearly. I could go for some concessions. We need a producer whose job it is to keep me well fed. Once the budget grows.
That's the job title?
Producer, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be their job to comb through all of my poorly written scorecards and come up with the stats for me. As that pitch skips to the backstop and the count is full. Their job to keep me hydrated, to keep the green room behind us well air conditioned, and most importantly, to keep me well fed throughout the week.
That's the most important part of the day and the entire week.
I can send them to our great sponsor, Dave & Buster's.
Yeah.
Pick up some food to go. Wonder if they do that. As McGrath draws a walk.
Couldn't tell you.
Now, Applebee's does sponsor Southshore Little League, so perhaps some Applebee's car side to go.
One of the places we usually visit after some of our games at CSI.
I'm excited to get started again at CSI. That being said, our workload's going to be a bit heavy. We're going to have a short staff.
Yeah. We'll get through the adversity. We usually do.
We always do. Conference at the mound here, following a leadoff walk. And Nick, there it is again.
Leadoff walk.
Another one.
By the way, I almost forgot to mention this from yesterday. There was a conference in the mound, and I almost said conference in the circle because I was so accustomed to saying it so many times for softball. So I almost made that mistake yesterday. Thankfully, I caught myself.
To be fair, the last games that we called prior to this on a baseball or softball diamond were softball, or at least we did call softball there recently.
And we played in a softball faculty and staff game. So
if they need some substitutions for the PDF, or at least 50% PDF recreational softball squad, you have to join us.
Yeah.
I did play in a game last week. I reached base in both games.
I told them that they needed me. If they needed another player, I would be willing to play.
You should play. It was a good time. I think perhaps more entertaining than the games themselves and playing in them are the stories that come from playing in them.
Now, meanwhile, Joe, we had a pitching change. It's
Okay.
Alex Torres, the shortstop, coming in relief. So Ruggiero's night is done. Finished around the 50-pitch mark. I think a little bit above the 50-pitch mark. So,
well, they talked that one over quite a while before they made the pitching change.
Yeah.
Or perhaps there was some instruction from the dugout passed along in the midst of the pitching change. Either way, Ruggiero is out. And he pitched pretty well, especially in that second inning. He had the strikeout going for him, but sometimes when you pile up the strikeouts, it does run up the pitch count. So while we have the warm-up tosses, more of them, we'll head to break. 30-second timeout for us here on PDF. We'll be right back with a 4-1 score and Northshore having a runner on.
State Little League Championship is proud to have Dave & Buster's as a proud sponsor. Where are you going after the game? There's only one place with delicious food, ice-cold drinks, games on the big screen, and fun for the whole family. Food and drink specials are available all week with the latest video games and the biggest arcade on the island. Redeem tokens for great prizes and come back often because Dave & Buster's is the place to be for game day and all the days in between. Turn on the fun with Dave & Buster's on Staten Island.
And we're back from South Shore following a message from Dave & Buster's. Speaking of Dave & Buster's, as we were on the topic of food, I was very nearly a record holder. I believe it's officially located somewhere near Woodbridge anyway, but the Woodbridge or thereabouts location in the basketball game. Visited one time, put up a pretty good score, shooting some hoops. As the first pitch thrown by Alex Torres misses low for ball one. After Liam McGrath reached on the leadoff walk, Houston Laley comes to the plate. Laley 0 for 2 yesterday. And he's ahead 2-0. As that ball gets away, and fortunately, it was backed up in right field. They threw behind the runner and almost paid for it, Nick.
Yeah, great job by Romero out in right field to back that one up. That definitely could have been one, maybe even two bases advanced if Romero was not backing up.
So as you said, Nick, Ruggiero threw 50 pitches. And
at least around that mark. I didn't get to see the number fully before he got taken out, but it was over the 50-pitch mark.
It was 50 on the dot.
Okay.
And as already noted in the live chat, that keeps him available for a potential semifinal game. And with a good job out of the bullpen here by Torres and the rest of the South Shore release corps, that potential semifinal could become a reality tonight. That 2-2 pitch is taken for ball 3. So just like that, North Shore is one pitch away from bringing the tying run to the plate.
Huge pitch coming from Torres right here. Full count with that runner on.
And there's ball 4.
Just like that now, the tying run comes to the plate. I mentioned going into this inning that if North Shore can get a run or two and trim into this deficit, there's still a lot of life left for them in this game. They now have runners at first and second, still nobody out. And as you mentioned, the tying run now at the plate.
Harrison Miller comes to the plate. He was 0 for 2 yesterday. And Nick, South Shore is expecting the bunt.
And I was just going to ask, do you think that maybe they would? Top of the order is on deck. And they would have an opportunity to get both runners into scoring position, but you could see it on even the camera here. The third baseman, that being Scarangello, all the way in, anticipating that bunt.
Nick, with the third baseman that far in, I'm almost tempted to swing, but it's only the third base corner that is in. First base is in about half.
Playing a little bit
maybe
more
a little more than half. A step in front of the bag. Third base is way in.
There's the bunt.
And the bunt was pulled back. Runner going for third. Nobody is covering, and the ball ends up in left field. McGrath is heading home. The throw goes to third, and nobody was covering. Laley moves up 2 bases. McGrath scores, and it's now 4-2.
Well, if you look on that one, Joe, I think Scarangello at third was expecting that throw into left to go home, but the throw was going to go to third base no matter what, and that led to the advancement from first to third. And now South Shore's lead is now trimmed down to 2, and now the time run's still at the plate, but now that third run is at third base.
Well, Nick, that's a complete disaster. There's no other way.
Could not have afforded that.
To assess that, you know. If you're South Shore, in anticipation of a bunt, your infield alignment changes, and we saw the results of that. But now, with the number 11 hitter at the plate for North Shore, they were in a situation where they needed a good sacrifice to put 2 in scoring position. They get a run, and now a runner stands on third, still nobody out, and Miller didn't have to move the bat.
Yeah, and now the question remains, does Miller maybe bunt in this spot? I don't know if he would because
I doubt it.
A close bunt could potentially lead to an out at the plate. So I think he'll probably most likely be swinging away. But South Shore...
They think he's bunting, Nick. They're with you. They think he might bunt.
The whole infield's in. He was swinging away.
And again, we don't know typically what to expect from these hitters beyond what we've seen these last 2 days, but Miller is batting at the bottom of the order, and he looks at a called strike 2. The count now 1 ball and 2 strikes, but if you're Southshore and you think he's a batter that you can get out, that certainly dictates your approach. Third base still in here. The left side moves back, and Miller looks at a called strike 3.
Miller thought that was a little bit high on that one, but nonetheless, Torres gets a huge strikeout for out number 1. But, Joe, I think you and I can both agree with the runner on third, nobody out, you got to make sure, if you're North Shore, you got that runner in and make it at least 4-3.
Ben McNally will be the batter, and the infield retreats to a more traditional depth. McNally at the plate, 0 for 1, struck out his first time up. As I mentioned earlier, had a hit in yesterday's game, and boy, could he use one right here.
Yeah.
And that gets to the backstop. Big bounce. And wisely heading back to third was Laley.
Yeah, huge South Shore bounce right there for them on that one. Could have led to that third run being scored for North Shore. Now the count goes immediately to 2-0.
And that's hit well to right. That should get a run in. Tagging at third is Laley. Throw to the plate, a good one. But it was bobbled off the bounce. And Nick, that was a great throw from right field.
That was a really good throw from Romero out in right field, but just not in time. And now it's a one-run game once again, Joe. 4-3 South Shore.
That was way closer than I expected at the plate. Way closer. It would have taken a seamless transition from handling that short hop to applying a tag, and even then, I'm not sure they had a play, but nonetheless, a tremendous throw.
You can see it right there. Great attempt from Romero out of right field, almost getting that runner from third base. And now, once again, a one-run score. As Mejia now comes up to the plate.
With that, North Shore has manufactured 2 runs in this inning, and I think there's no more appropriate way to describe how they did it. And Renner Mejia, the batter, behind 0-1 here. That swung on and fouled back.
Just got a little piece of that one. This is quickly behind the count 0-2.
Mejia singled, advanced 2 bases on 2 separate wild pitches, and scored in the first on an RBI single by Logan McCarron. And Mejia will ask for time, and that is granted. Count 0-2 on the North Shore shortstop. That's taken high. Count now 1-2. That's in the dirt.
So now from 0-2 to 2-2. Yeah, try to maybe make this count full here, 3-2. Here comes the next pitch.
And he has worked it full. There's no way he went, right?
Not to my knowledge. Didn't look like he went.
South Shore was trying to sell it, I believe. But that is indeed ball 3. Here comes the payoff pitch. And that is a called strike 3.
A very late strike 3 call, too.
Wow. And the North Shore dugout can't believe it. And you can hear it, Nick. The spectators have begun to make their voices heard just a bit. Some grunts and groans from that side of the complex. And I'm trying to listen in, which is why I'm pausing in my speech here. But things have calmed down, and the inning is over. But not before North Shore pulls back to within a run. Our score, South Shore 4 and North Shore 3 as we head to the 4th inning.
Award Awards and Trophy Center is proud to sponsor this week's New York State Little League Championship. Located at 1600 Highland Boulevard on Staten Island, we pride ourselves in not only building trophies, but building relationships, as we service our community and treat you like family. Your event and its achievements deserve the best. That's why Country Awards and Trophy Center is ready to work with all of our clients to make your event a memorable one, with awards, trophies, and gifts that make a lasting impression. Come see why we love our customers and they love us. Visit us today.
And we're back from Southshore Little League, where we have ourselves a ball game. Northshore refuses to quit, and they've battled back to within a run after a 3-spot by Southshore in the top half of the third inning. But Nick, let's go back to that last called third strike. You brought something to my attention during the break that we should share on the air. You suspect that the reason Northshore has been upset by multiple called third strikes is that the Southshore catcher, in this case behind the plate, that is Peter Giacchio, has done a great job framing pitches.
Yeah, I've seen it a bunch of times so far. I saw an instance of that back in the first inning, and you could see it on a low pitch. He's moving his glove up to frame it, and that's a great credit to him because catchers are normally told to do stuff like that in order to get the call from the umpire. They've gotten the benefit of that call so far in this game, and they got that strikeout in that previous half inning. Now sends us here to the top of the fourth. South Shore still on top, but it's now once again a one-run game.
And to build upon your point, Nick, something that we've seen emphasized in Major League Baseball is stealing strikes by perhaps moving that glove up a bit in the strike zone. And we've seen catchers pay the price for it with injuries. I believe Francisco Alvarez was injured that way on a backswing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Contreras from the Cardinals, that's how he got hurt.
Yep.
He tried to frame a pitch, and he got hit with the bat on the swing.
I think you're right about that as well. So we've seen catchers pay the price trying to reach into the strike zone to steal strikes. Not saying that's what's occurring here. Instead, we believe Giacchio might be framing that pitch, which is far different than stealing strikes by reaching into the zone. But either way, the art of getting strike calls as a catcher not to be overlooked, and we wanted to make sure that we gave that a mention as we return from break. Meanwhile, for South Shore, here in the fourth inning, they're going to have 5, 6, and 7. Iracy, Curro, and Giacchio due up.
They will face Weingartner once again, Joe, approaching that 60-pitch mark here in the inning.
That's not surprising in a must-win game, as that pop-up was dropped in foul ground.
Depending on how this at-bat goes, Joe, you're hopeful for North Shore that they get the out because that's one you want to have.
That play was up against the fence, but that is going to go down as an error. Sorella was there, and it just hit off his glove, and now...
You think Comeback Kid was having some flashbacks?
Well, now that we have a break in the action with the infielders conversing, quickly I'll tell that story. Perhaps we'll wait a pitch.
Might have to wait, yeah.
It doesn't have the same impact if Lewis isn't in the chat anymore.
I know.
That pitch is fouled away onto Bedell Avenue. But very quickly, we were scoring a baseball game. I'm in charge of stats where I work, and Lewis is our lead statistician. So I finalize the box score. He scores the game. We'll continue after this pitch. And that sails over the head of Iracy, but Lewis was scoring the game, and there was a dropped foul ball where I believe it was the third baseman fell over the dugout railing and dropped the ball. Not a routine play. Inexplicably, it was scored an error, as that's in for a called strike 3, and Iracy goes down looking. I told Lewis, don't worry about it, we'll change it when the game is over. He waited until the inning was over rather than the game, deleted the play, and ruined our entire box score. I had to then rescore the game from that point forward.
And folks, that's never fun to do.
No. So anytime there's a dropped foul ball anywhere near a railing or a fence, we have to bring it up and remind Lewis that that is to be scored correctly and not altered until later if a mistake is made. At the plate now, Chase Curro, and he looks at a called strike 1, evening up the count at 1. Curro at the plate in this game drew a walk his first time up, and he takes ball 2. Comes the 2-1. And that's low.
I would think no matter what, Joe, this most likely will be Weingartner's final inning. There was a conversation with the third base coach.
I got the impression based on body language that Northshore is wondering where that was called last inning, as that's flared into left field for a base hit. And Curro is on for the second time tonight.
A little bit of opposite field hitting right there from Curro, getting it as the lefty gets it down the left field line. And it's a one-out single for Southshore.
That will bring up Peter Giacchio. Giacchio 0 for 1. He hit that ball in the air just beyond the infield. That was caught by the shortstop in left back in the second inning. If that ball was not caught, this game could look very different.
Right.
Now, typically when you see conversations between third base coach and hitter, your instinct is to think there may be a bunt forthcoming. Northshore appears ready defensively, and that's in the dirt. It didn't get away far enough, but Curro thought about it.
Made a wise choice to stay.
That pitch misses high. Balloon's with me, Nick. He saw who we'd presume is the head coach and the manager, Gus Mejia, for Northshore, all the way up on the top step of the dugout. He was peering over that fence, staring daggers toward home plate. I don't believe he said a word, but when that pitch was called a ball in that last at bat, you could tell based on body language he didn't like it as the count runs to 2-1 on Giacchio. Comes the 2-1. There's a big swing and miss for strike 2.
Getting back to that point, I mean, not only do the players want this win, Joe, the coaches want it as well. They want to make sure that they're on Thursday, they have a chance to make it to the semifinals on Friday.
Count even at 2 now. That's fouled away. Count remains even, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Well, Northshore doesn't have to worry about the bunt now. Here comes another 2-2. And that's low for ball 3. Bit of a reverse Soto shuffle there, Nick?
Just a bit. So one of those last night as well.
There's a swing and a miss for strike 3. So Giacchio goes down swinging for the second out. That's 2 strikeouts in the inning for Weingartner. And Dylan DeGata will be the batter.
And he needed that strikeout big time. He was 1 pitch away from walking the batter and making it first and second with just 1 out. Instead, it's now 2 outs and a runner on first.
That's it on the ground and off the lip of the grass and into right center field. How did that happen?
That was one of the more unusual bounces I've ever seen.
Wow. A very unorthodox single for DeGata. Going first to third is Curro. And now Southshore has raised the threat level just a bit with 2 outs here in the 4th. Dean Scarangello, the batter. Runners on the corners, 2 outs. Weingartner at 75 pitches, and the runner is headed for second, trying to induce a throw, but none is forthcoming.
Second look at that bounce. It went into the outfield. Very unusual play.
Where did that ball hit, Nick? I can't imagine anywhere other than the lip of the infield grass. On the backside of that lip. That's the only way you'd get that bounce.
Looks like it just got past the infield grass and got into took a bounce off the dirt.
That was a crazy bounce as that skied out to shallow center and down for a hit. 2 runs will score, and an ill-advised throw to the plate allows Scarangello to take second. It's a 2 RBI single for Dean Scarangello, And South Shore is back in front by 3.
Well, one of the more dangerous plays in baseball, Joe, a bloop single into the outfield, and that allows 2 runs to score for South Shore. They now go back up 3 runs, 6-3, a big hit right there from Scarangello.
And that has to be so demoralizing. If you're North Shore, they were so close to getting out of this inning, and it looked like they were about to. Now, Nick, just to go back to that play on the bounce, there's no chance to hit the runner, right?
No, it didn't look like it did.
I didn't think so either in real time. I just thought it was a crazy bounce. But for the sake of being thorough, I had to check. That's a tough break for North Shore.
I'll look off to the side, but I don't think it did.
2 tough breaks in a row, one on the bad bounce, and then another on that jam shot by Scarangello.
Yeah.
He muscled that one off the hands into center field.
That's the no man's land type of play where you have 3 converging fielders and it just falls in between all 3 of them. Really tough break for North Shore right there.
Zach Weiss, the batter here, and he's behind 0-2. Weingartner at 80 pitches. And time was called. Weingartner set. Comes the 0-2. And that bounces in for ball 1. Count now 1 ball and 2 strikes. And again, we have time. One and 2 is in for a called strike 3. Weiss goes down looking. Weingartner ultimately strikes out the side, but his team is right back in a 3-run hole following one of the wildest bounces on the infield that I've ever seen and a bloop 2 RBI base hit by Dean Scarangello. South Shore leads it 6-3, headed to the home 4th.
Attention local businesses and professionals. Isn't it time to elevate your game? Now you can advertise your business or product on PDF Sports Network. Your ad will appear on all of our broadcasts, including this one. Don't have a commercial? We'll make one for you, absolutely free. What better way to showcase your product and brand while supporting the best local sports, teams, and leagues? Call now at 732-723-8189 or visit us at pdfsportsnet.com.
And we are back for the bottom half of the 4th inning. South Shore in front by a score of 6-3. And Nick, we had a wild 6th inning in Game 1 tonight.
Yep.
We have had a completely wild game here in Game 2.
Yeah, that last inning, half inning is for sure probably one of the more weirder sequences we've had. A weird bounce that just past the infield grass, maybe hit off the top of where the first instinct of dirt was, and went into the outfield for a single, and then a bloop single into center field where 3 of the fielders just were not able to grab it just because of how softly it was hit and based on where they were positioned on the defensive side. And because of that, now South Shore now has a 6-3 lead. So those 2 runs that North Shore just got, Joe, now have been negated, and it's back to a 3-run deficit.
Well, the home team in this game with 9 outs to play with, their tournament life on the line.
As well as EGC.
That's true. That is true. You have to think some members of that team are watching as well. And they put on a show for 2 straight days without a win to show for it. They've been really fun to watch.
Yeah.
I got my first look at them tonight, and obviously they played a thriller yesterday against South Shore, but tough night for them. And it gets a bit tougher if North Shore can't come back in this game.
North Shore's going to have 3, 4, and 5 up in the inning, Joe. So this is a good spot in the lineup you want to have down 3 runs trying to get back into the game.
There's a swing and a miss. Now, point being made in the live chat is that with how many runs North Shore has given up, the road for them would be very tough. I think basically what would happen is they'd have to win out. They'd have no chance if they don't win out. that have to go 2-1 and hope that Southshore loses. That would be their path. I don't think there's any way that they would survive otherwise. That pitch misses outside. If there was a three-way tie, they're not going to make it through that. And the only way there'd be a three-way tie, as Waltz goes down swinging, the only way there could be a three-way tie is if Northshore wins tonight and loses on Thursday, which would mean that Northshore lost to EGC. So EGC would be 1-2, Northshore would be 1-2, Southshore would then have to lose to Massapequa Coast. You have a three-way tie that way. That's the only way you're getting a three-way tie. Northshore has to win twice with the amount of runs they've given up. It'd be so tough for them otherwise. At the plate now, Dylan Waltz. Logan McCarron. Whenever the gears start turning around tiebreakers, my scorecard becomes second thought. McCarron ahead, 1-0 here.
Time's call is Northshore's going to start warming up a pitcher down the first base line.
Northshore is going to need a new pitcher, likely after one batter if they send Weingartner out there. But I don't think they will.
I don't think so either. With 82 pitches in this game thrown by him, probably seen the last of him tonight, at least on the mound.
I think you have to give your reliever a clean inning to work with. Even if Weingartner gets you an out, I don't think that's a chance you want to take. I think you give the reliever the start of the inning and go from there. They'll need at least 6 outs from the bullpen, maybe more, if this game goes beyond 6 innings. And McCarron's ahead 2-0 now.
As I mentioned that last inning for North Shore, they needed to get at least a run or two to make this one, have a chance to make it easier to come back from. And now once again down 3, already 1 out in the inning. It's 2-1 count for McCarron, but they could really use another run in this inning to keep them at least with their hopes and spirits alive in this game.
And McCarron is hit by the pitch. Well, McCarron has now reached base in all 4 of his at-bats these last 2 days.
Now I'll bring up Aiden White with the runner on and 1 away.
And just to affirm what's already been said in the live chat, yes, if Southshore wins, it is Massapequa Coast and Southshore moving on as they will play each other on Thursday.
And as we mentioned, that would be, for seeding purposes, that matchup of what will determine.
I think we'll have a much clearer picture after the early games on Thursday, how much that seeding will matter, as that's lined at the center field for a base hit by Aiden White. Nick, tying run's coming to the plate.
Once again, they're going to have the tying run at the plate. Nice base hit for White up the middle of the field. First and second, still just 1 out. And Weingartner now, the pitcher, will come up to the plate.
Well, if there's something that I've noticed tonight, in contrast to what we saw yesterday, these North Shore bats have come to life. And Weingartner takes outside. That pitch in for a strike, and Giacchio thought about a throw behind the runner.
It'd be wise not to throw it down. Don't want another errant throw, allowing both base runners to get into scoring position.
Comes the 1-1. He chases out of the zone there. Big swing and miss by Weingartner for strike 2.
Be a huge punch out for Torres right here if he can get that third strike. Still just 1 out.
There's a swing and a miss for strike 3.
Hope he does indeed get that third strike. So it looked like that was a little bit in on the inside potentially, but nonetheless, Torres gets the strikeout, 2 outs. It's up to Jude Ryan here with 2 away as he once again represents the tying run.
He just challenged him on that last pitch, Nick. Threw him a high fastball and beat him. Jude Ryan, the batter, 0 for 1 in this game, and he lines out to third on the first pitch. Good job by Torres to work around trouble. He strands a pair, and Southshore maintains a 6-3 lead as we play on, headed to the 5th.
When it comes to sports, why be good when you can be legendary? At Legend Sporting Goods in Brooklyn, we service the community with only the best custom apparel, embroidery, and service, specializing in youth sports, so that the leaders of today become the legends of tomorrow. We're proud to support all of this week's great athletes and invite everyone to check us out and make us a part of your team. Come see why Legend Sporting Goods is in a class by itself. Visit us online or call us now.
And we're back from Southshore Little League, where a hard-hit ball straight to the third baseman brought the last half inning to a close. And Nick, if that ball found its way down the line, that was going to be big trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Could have been a double, maybe even a triple, depending on how the defensive alignment was going to be for Southshore in that at-bat. But a great play at third base by Scarangelo to make that catch and record the final out. And now Southshore heads into the top of the 5th inning, Joe, with the 3-run lead. 6 outs away from sealing this game up and solidifying their spot into the semifinals on Friday.
Coming to the plate for the visitors here in the top of the 5th, it will be 11, 12, and 1.
It's always weird to say.
Yeah, very. 11, 12, and 1 in this game have reached base 3 times already.
And I will say, Joe, we mentioned this the last half inning, but Weingartner is out there to start the inning, so he is going to pitch maybe to one more batter, and then they will turn to their new reliever.
So Weingartner does come back out. Like I said during the previous half inning, I thought you give your reliever a clean inning, but perhaps Weingartner is the arm that they trust.
And if you think about it, Joe, other than the home run, he's just had some bad breaks overall in this game. You have the play at the home plate with the stolen base, a couple bad bounces, a bloop single into center field. This game definitely has been changed because of those plays. He did make that one mistake pitch to Grippo, but other than that, he just had some bad luck along the way.
We were just greeted by some fans.
Nicholas McLean will lead off in the inning.
And going back to your point about Weingartner, and perhaps that'll have to wait a moment. We'll wait until this next pitch as McLean looks at a strike. But the question I always ask myself when it comes to tough breaks for a pitcher is how much of those tough breaks did you set up on your own? Whether it be errors in the field or walks from the pitcher. And he walked 4 batters, which always hurts. And, that bounce on the infield, I think, was the real turning point in this game. I think that's where this game really turned. Once that bad bounce happened, it opened the door, and it opened the door wide. And, Southshore came through like the Kool-Aid man. He comes through the wall.
I was not expecting that sentence. Okay.
I don't know why that came to mind.
All right.
They said, forget the door. We're bursting through the wall. As that's hit out to left center field. And into second base standing with a leadoff double is Nicholas McLean.
Well, like I said, McLean definitely burst that ball into left center field for that extra base hit. A leadoff double to start the top of the 5th inning as Southshore looks to increase on their lead and make sure that they can hold on to this game.
McLean has now reached base twice. That's his first hit. Scored following a walk back in the 3rd. And that will do it for William Weingartner. He gets a nice round of applause from the North Shore fans seated behind the first base dugout. We said it, Nick. He was victimized by some tough luck, especially in that 4th inning with the bad hop on the infield and then the flare out to center. But officially, he's going to be charged with 6 runs. And let me get a look at that hit tally.
That's
7 hits. 7 hits for Southshore. That number not reflected on the scoreboard here at the venue. So with a new pitcher coming into the game, and that new pitcher will be Dylan Waltz, we'll step aside and take a break. When we come back, Waltz takes over for North Shore.
tournament would not be possible without the great support of the Staten Island Advance. Not only does the Staten Island Advance have full coverage of the tournament, but we are committed to covering island youth sports year-round and all news close to home. Pick up the paper today and look for great subscriber deals now for our loyal readership. Visit us online at silive.com for news and photos of this week's tournament and all the breaking news on Staten Island, the nation, and the world. The news of Staten Island is the Staten Island Advance and silive.com.
And we are back from Southshore Little League with a message from our friends over at Great Kills. Fall ball registration now open. The online registration process opened up about a week ago and runs through August 15th. A t-shirt and hat is included in the $200 price, and you can get a discount for each sibling enrolled, along with your first child enrolled at the $200 price point. The birth dates for spring 2025 are listed below as well by age group, and you can scan the QR code for more information. Visit www.gklittleleague.com to get registered today. Meanwhile, here at South Shore, the score is 6-3, South Shore over North Shore, and a chance for more. As South Shore bats with a runner in scoring position, nobody out. Jason Rocchio to the plate. Unsurprisingly, he shows bunt and pulls it back as he looks at ball one.
Well, after that well-placed bunt he laced the last time he came up, that one going down the first base line, getting him a single. Can't blame him here trying to do it once again.
Bottom of the order has been really good for South Shore tonight. They've reached base 3 times in 3 at-bats, and now Rocchio is ahead 2-0.
And we've talked about that with Massapequa Coast, where from top to bottom, that's what you want from a lineup. South Shore is getting that here tonight.
There's ball 3.
And he's shown bunt on every single pitch.
And Nick,
he's got the benefit of the doubt.
You hate to walk the 12-hitter, but a force all around isn't a terrible thing, as that's in for a strike.
And if you saw on that windup, and a very quick throw from Waltz on that one.
Comes to 3-1. And that's ball 4. So the bottom 2 hitters in the South Shore lineup have now reached base 4 times in 4 at-bats, and there are 2 on and nobody out for Vin Ruggiero.
Yeah, you go back to the top of the lineup now for Ruggiero, who scored the first run of this game with that steal of home. It's still nobody out in the inning, so the dangerous spot for North Shore already down 3 runs.
Ruggiero 0 for 1 with a walk, and that run that you just referenced scored back in the first inning. Comes the 0-1, and that's hit in the air pretty well out to right field, falling along the line, and that is a foul ball. The runners are still going, and it appears
they will have to run all the way back.
They will have to run back, so Ruggiero just took a full lap.
They did the due diligence at least to go to home plate, just in case.
Okay, so Ruggiero didn't do a lap. The runners on base did a
Correct.
lap. Okay. Ruggiero knew it, but the runners didn't bother to look, and I think you have to like that.
Yeah.
Don't assume.
And, also for North Shore in that spot, the right fielder, Laley, I mean, he had a long run to go from where he was positioned to get that ball.
Comes the 0-2, and that's high. And even more so now with South Shore threatening, it just feels like North Shore had to have a run or 2 in that last inning.
Yeah.
2 men on, just 1 out. As that skied out to right again. Initially, breaking back on that ball as the runner tags was the right fielder, Laley. Going from second to third is McLean. Holding it first is Rocchio. And now there are runners on the corners with 1 out.
And look at the man coming up to the plate, Joe, who's already made a big impact with a 3-run homer. Right now is the difference of this game. Steven Grippo coming up first and third, just 1 out.
Is there a scenario you consider walking him to get to the cleanup hitter, number 3 hitter? Is there any scenario where you consider a force all around?
I think if you're down 2-0, I think then you would consider it. At least for me, I would consider that.
After that last home run, I'm honestly considering it now. But I think that goes firmly against the book in a spot like this. Though they may be pitching around him, we don't know.
Yeah. It is 2-0 now.
You're in a spot where you find yourself between a rock
Joe.
and a hard place, and
Right.
they will walk him. I like that call.
Yeah.
I like that call. I think that's the right decision.
I'll give myself a pat on the back for that one.
That being said, you are putting a lot of trust in Waltz here to throw strikes.
Yep.
Alex Torres will be the batter.
And we are one swing away, Joe, from this place going nuts.
And that's grounded to third. The throw comes home, and it's offline. They had the out at the plate, but the throw was wide, and everyone is safe.
Another bad break for Northshore in this game, as that error will lead to the 7th run for Southshore. And now it's a 4-run lead and still just 1 out in this inning.
That's a tough throw for a third baseman.
So you're also trying to avoid hitting the runner in that on that throw.
The bases remain loaded. Southshore now in front, 7-3. And Jake Romero will be the batter. They had to come home, Nick, and it was almost well executed, but being forced to throw around the runner in that spot put Weingartner, who just took over at third base, in a really tough position.
Yeah. You saw on the replay that he tried to throw it around the runner to avoid hitting him on the throw. And because of that happening, it allowed the error to happen and lead to that 7th run.
That's hit in the air, hit well out to right field. And it's been a busy half inning out there for Laley as another run comes in to score on a sacrifice fly by Jake Romero.
Very productive out right there for Romero, breaking home the 8th run for Southshore as he gets that sacrifice fly out into right field. And now a 5-run deficit for Northshore with just 6 outs to play for them.
They're in a really tough spot. And I think the momentum that swung in favor of Southshore after Northshore failed to score in the 4th inning has really propelled them, and this will help. Another wild pitch. Grippo's in to score. And moving up to second on that play was the runner over at first. My scorecard's a mess. I believe that's Torres at second. That is Torres. Grippo scores, and we're back on track.
Glad
It's
to
now
hear that.
9-3. And we may have a pitching change here. I think we will. That's going to be all for Dylan Waltz. And outside of that leadoff double, the ball hasn't really been hit that hard against him. The fly balls to right field were hit pretty deep, but it looks like they kind of got under those. Those weren't hit on the screws like that double. That was a loud double. But since then, there have been miscues in the field, the wild pitch, and the error allowing the runners to advance on that throw home. All of that has piled up to put together a 3-run inning for Southshore as they lead by 6.
And they're going to leave him in the game. So this is really important for Northshore to at least get this final out. It's already a 6-run deficit. Do not want to make it any further than it currently is.
Well, if Southshore does go on to win this game, we're put in a situation that we didn't face last year, where we're going to have 2 games back-to-back wrapping up pool play that have no impact on who advances.
Yeah.
Don't sound so excited.
Well,
that pitch is in for a strike on 3-0.
It's tough because obviously, you know, we've seen EGC, what's happened in their 2 games, and then we have already talked about, yes, there will be something to at least kind of play for the Southshore Massapequa game. But again, as we mentioned, it will all depend on matchups and who you want to face. But that won't be determined until the Southshore part of of the other region, which will be played here, is decided. So still a lot to be decided upon in the next couple of days.
I hate to speak in terms of, I certainly would like to face this team if I move on to the next round.
Yeah.
I do it all the time in professional sports. as that's hit out to shallow center, and that's down for a hit. It's now 10-3 as a run comes in to score. The throw to the plate will allow the runner to advance 2 bases. And we've seen that more than once tonight as Joe Iracy drives in a run with that base hit, but the throw going home costing North Shore extra bases for the batter. And in this case, Iracy clearly was allowed 2 extra bases by that throw.
And Joe, what do we speak about going into this game for South Shore about how their offense had not really looked as good as they wanted it to be in Game 1? They have certainly been to life here, especially in the late parts of this game. Now, that should be their 8th or 9th hit of the game. I don't have the exact number on me. But now 10 runs in this game as well. They're taking advantage also of some errors in the field as well as some wild pitches, and now have a 7-run lead.
Well, going back to my previous point, we won't openly talk about on the air who we think the teams would rather play, but after the early games on Thursday, I think our viewers will be able to draw their own conclusions on that. I think we'll have a much clearer picture of who these teams would like to face coming up on the semifinals on Friday. North Shore just needs to get out of this inning, and that will do it. As
Great
that
catch.
ball was hit on the screws. Chase Currow right on that one, but it finds the glove of who else? Houston Laley in right field to retire the side, but not before South Shore scores 4 more. They have scored 9 times across the last 3 innings, and they now lead it 10-3.
The Staten Island Ferry Hawks are proud to be a sponsor of this year's New York State Little League Championship because one championship organization deserves another. Come check out another amazing season with us at Staten Island University Hospital Community Ballpark with great ticket and group deals, theme nights, and fireworks displays. Good luck to all of our teams this week from your friends at the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. We'll see you at the game.
And we're back from South Shore as during that last break, Nick and I just took a look ahead on the schedule. And taking a look ahead to Thursday, obviously we already knew that the games on the other side of pool play that are going to have implications in terms of who's moving on to the semifinal, those games are in the morning. However, we are going to close out pool play with the 2 games on this side of pool play, and the first game will be the game that determines seeding. The second game not going to have any implications of any kind, which is a bit of a downer, admittedly, but that's the way things will shake out if this result holds.
Yeah, at least for those 2 teams, at least try to end tournament play with a win. But yeah, I think just like I said, I mean, there's been a couple of bad bounces for not only North Shore, but especially EGC in what's gone down this tournament. There definitely could be cases made for either one of those 2 teams now, potentially after tonight, being 1-1, but just unfortunately has not gone their way, and they're both now in danger, it looks to be, falling to 0-2.
So once again, in terms of scheduling the rest of the week, for those inquiring, tomorrow there are no games. We have a parade into Great Kills Little League, followed by the skills competition and a picnic on the field. The skills competition begins at approximately 10 a.m. tomorrow. The parade into the complex begins at 9:30. We will have all of that for you right here on PDF. After the skills competition ends around noon, as that's hit in the air out to left field, where the catch is made for out number 1. But once the skills competition ends at noon tomorrow, we sign off until Thursday morning, and that is when pool play will resume. Dylan Zarella was the batter leading things off for North Shore, who flew out to left. Due up behind him, Liam McGrath and Houston Laley. But on Thursday morning, we are going to have 2 highly important games in terms of which teams advance. Plattsburgh and Penfield are up first, And if Plattsburgh wins that game, they have a very, very tough road given how many runs they allowed. That being said, if they win by enough, they could still be alive.
Right.
Meanwhile, the second game on Thursday morning, we'll see Auburn face Harrison, two teams that won big on day one. And one of those teams, or I should say, if Harrison were to lose, Harrison would fall to 1-2 after that big win. And Auburn with a win could go to 3-0. Massapequa Coast and Southshore game that will have a lot of eyeballs here on Staten Island. That's the 5 p.m. game that you and I will have on Thursday night over at Great Kills, Nick. And then, of course, the game between the pair of 0-2 teams wraps pool play up at 8 o'clock.
Still a lot of action to go, but I think for that 5 p.m. game, especially if Auburn was to go to 3-0, then that 5 p.m. game becomes the factor of which team will face Auburn on Friday for the semifinals. Now, again, it's all contingent on what happens on Thursday if Auburn is to win their game against Harrison. But I'll have to see how it all plays out. But you mentioned it. There is a potential, depending on also what happens with the run differential, for the run ratio rule to happen with the potential of 1-2 teams.
Well, taking a look over at the other side of the bracket, there appears to be a great deal of parity between those teams. And we had the lopsided results on night one. Everything went pretty much the opposite of how we would have expected on day two. So that's solely based on the day one scores. Meanwhile, back-to-back strikeouts close out the bottom half of the fifth inning. Both McGrath and Laley go down swinging back-to-back after the fly ball to left, and just like that, Northshore goes down in order. We head to the sixth. Southshore in front by 7 runs.
State Little League Championship is proud to have Dave & Buster's as a proud sponsor. Where are you going after the game? There's only one place with delicious food, ice-cold drinks, games on the big screen, and fun for the whole family. Food and drink specials are available all week with the latest video games and the biggest arcade on the island. Redeem tokens for great prizes and come back often because Dave & Buster's is the place to be for game day and all the days in between. Turn on the fun with Dave & Buster's on Staten Island.
Aiden White, the new pitcher for Northshore, left-hander, wears number 12, got the start in the outfield in this game. Spent much of the game a few feet beneath us out here in left field. Once again, this is Joe Foreman alongside Nick Bavona on the call. The two of us had the night games for you yesterday. We have the 2 night games today, and we have the skills competition tomorrow. Once again, tune in beginning at 9:30 a.m. for the parade into the complex. Much of that will be handled by the public address announcer, but Nick and I will sign on, talk a bit about the week up until that point, and we'll preview some of Thursday's action if the time remains to do so. But if I recall, the skills competition last year included targeted throwing from the outfield, so trying to hit targets around the plate from the outfield, the dash around the bases, the fastest time from home plate all the way around, and of course, the home run derby. And Nick, you have to think Cohen Ashby in the home run
Has
derby.
to be considered
early
in that derby.
favorite.
Might be the early favorite
Keen
for sure.
Rimler?
Keen Rimler, yeah. Keen Rimler definitely could be considered that. Joe, the question is, how big of an impression are we going to do on Chris Berman tomorrow for the derby? I might. I'm telling you right now. I'm warning you now. I might.
I have to admit, we planned on broadcasting from up top on the deck, but with the home run derby, we might have to get out there in center field.
Yeah. Is there enough time in between to do so?
The home run derby is last, if I recall. But we're not going to just change locations and move our equipment.
No.
So we have to decide. Have to decide tomorrow. Our score here, 10-3. Southshore in the sixth. We'll send 7, 8, 9 to the plate. Giacchio, DeGata, and Scarangello. And the count runs to 1 ball and 2 strikes on the Southshore catcher.
As you mentioned for yourself, a big, busy day on Thursday, calling all the action not only here, but also at Great Hills for the 8 teams left. And then we'll be able to preview our semifinals once we're at Great Hills that night.
Nick Durst and I in the morning, Nick Bavona and I in the evening. Thursday will be a long one.
Yep.
Count 2 balls and 2 strikes on Giacchio, and he will go down on strikes.
I'll try to join the live chat as best I can at some point during one of those, or at least both of those first games of the day.
Dylan DeGata will be the batter. Live chat's gotten quite humorous with an exchange over the last couple of minutes if you want to check it out.
Let's see, my internet's been kind of spotty here. Trying to check the Yankee score a few minutes ago.
That's it on the ground toward the hole and through the left side for a base hit. Dylan DeGata is on with his second hit of the game. He's now 2 for 3.
So 1-out single right there from DeGata brings another Southshore base runner in this one.
I have 9 hits for Southshore in this game. And we agree. Very nice. Always good when the scorecard and the scoreboard come together. No hit tally in the venue, no error tally, as we don't have official scorings in the complex. You can always trust us for reliable scoring information. Here comes the 1-0 pitch to Dean Scarangello. He takes a strike, and his 2 RBI hit earlier in the game on that bloop to center field, that really swung this game in South Shore's direction.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it early. That was a big, big difference maker in how this game has gone.
No doubt about it. Count 1 ball and 2 strikes.
As you mentioned, there's definitely an interesting conversation going on in the chat.
The batter did not go. Well, you remember what I said earlier about the viewers will form their opinions on what to expect come those matchups in the semis, and that's being discussed. We'll talk about it more during the second game on Thursday.
Yep.
I think we're going to have some time to dedicate to that conversation during that final game. Count full now on Scarangello, 3-2. DeGata still stands over at first, and that's hit well out to center. But waiting there to make the catch without a problem was Miller, or at least Miller started at center. He's right next to me in left, so a defensive realignment has shuffled the outfield. That came with the pitching change. And now in center field, I believe, is Weingartner.
I believe you're correct.
So he pitches, plays the corner infield, and plays center. Balloon, you're not the only one who thought that was hit a bit better. I knew it wasn't gone, but I'll tell you, the South Shore spectators sure thought it was.
Mm-hmm. Fairness, I think that all the time when I'm at a Yankee game. I think every ball that's hit.
The Yankees have Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, so. But you're not that guy on a can of corn who starts the deep gasp.
Oh, no.
Or the premature cheer.
No, it's very rare if I was to do that. There is maybe one glaring instance of that happening, and I'll show you the clip of it after we're done here. But there was a game last season, or I think it was maybe 2 years ago, where Giancarlo Stanton hit a ball into left field, and I for sure off the bat, it was gone, and it was right in front of the warning track, and I vowed never again to do that after that happened.
Yeah, I'm too busy eating to cheer. I don't want to speak in absolutes, and it probably isn't true because the Phillies don't have an all-you-can-eat section, or at least not one that goes for under $1,000. But the Mets and Yankees both have very affordable all-you-can-eat seats, and generally speaking, I will not go to a Mets game or a Yankee game if I'm not in those seats. I enjoy baseball, but I'm not a Mets fan. I'm not a Yankees fan. So if I'm going to one of those games, they better be giving away a George Costanza bobblehead and feeding me for free.
Yes.
Which they did back on July 5th.
Going to a Mets game in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. It's a football jersey day at Citi Field. Yeah.
You could recoup the ticket price. Put it on eBay.
You could, yeah.
Unless you wear a size XL, because that's the size they give away.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'll probably be talking to you after the game's over.
I've grown into the stadium shirts now, so the giveaways in XL are just the right fit for me. Especially after they shrink in the dryer. Once I hit the 200-pound mark, the XLs started to fit pretty well. At the plate here, Zach Weiss. Check that. Nicholas McLean. I'm all over the place, Nick.
That score sheet's having a tough night.
I stopped scoring the game. That's the problem. What did the last batter do?
The last batter walked.
Okay. Too busy talking about free food. My mind can wander.
That happens sometimes. It's all right.
Balloon says for the sake of inclusivity, they might be giving away large now.
Oh, okay.
I'm not included. He didn't use that word. I did, just to
okay.
Just to be clear, I editorialized that one.
Trying to throw him under the bus.
They're down to large. The country's growing, not shrinking.
Okay, Joe.
As that's fouled away. I haven't stopped growing since my 25th birthday.
I don't know what was the more out-of-pocket comment, that or the Kool-Aid one.
I mean, who doesn't love the Kool-Aid Man?
I just wasn't expecting it.
I grew up with those commercials. What was the name of the comedian that had the Kool-Aid Man bit? How could I forget?
Anytime I think of that, I just think of the Family Guy scene.
Oh, how could I forget?
You'll look it up. You'll find it.
There's a swing and a miss for strike 3, and McLean goes down swinging to bring the top half of the 6th to a close. Last chance for Southshore. They come to bat.
For Northshore.
For Northshore, they come to bat, trailing by 8.
Awards and Trophy Center is proud to sponsor this week's New York State Little League Championship. Located at 1600 Highland Boulevard on Staten Island, we pride ourselves in not only building trophies, but building relationships, as we service our community and treat you like family. Your event and its achievements deserve the best. That's why Country Awards and Trophy Center is ready to work with all of our clients to make your event a memorable one, with awards, trophies, and gifts that make a lasting impression. Come see why we love our customers and they love us. Visit us today.
Well, amidst talking about stadium giveaways and free food and the Mets, the Yankees, the Phillies, and much more, I missed that they had an extra run on the outfield scoreboard. The outfield scoreboard did read 11-3. They have fixed it, but there was an extra run.
They must be hearing us.
Put up on the board for Southshore during that 5th inning. Now, that run had to have been added during the 6th because it was not there when the 5th inning ended. But it is 10-3, not 11-3.
Well, good thing they had that Daktronics scoreboard up there.
That's right, because if you have the scoreboard they were using at the Ferry Hawks 2 years ago, you can't change the score.
Nope.
Doing the scoreboard as we work the game from up in that press box.
The amount of times I had to go on the public address mic and announce what the score was because the fans kept knocking on the glass to tell me that the score was wrong.
Yeah, that was a long, long day.
Yeah.
That was a long day, but the Ferry Hawks were great partners to us and helping us host the game for the College of Staten Island. We got a chance to call the game from the press box.
I had tickets for their game tonight, but forgot that we had this tournament, so I was able to give it away to a family member.
All right, so what we'll have to do, we'll go to a game as a group. We'll get the suite seats, and I know they have all-you-can-eat days on Fridays now.
They do.
So the Ferry Hawks, of course, a great sponsor. And you know what we could do? We could go tomorrow.
Maybe.
We could. We'll see. We'll see. It's been a long week.
Play it by ear.
The reason I say that is because the teams will be there tomorrow as
Right.
the 8 teams participating in this state championship will be recognized ahead of the game. Last chance for Northshore, as I misspoke at the end of the previous half inning. And they will send 11, 1, and 2 to the plate, Miller, McNally, and Mejia. That's fouled straight back as Harrison Miller falls behind 0-2. Comes the 0-2. And that's swung on and missed for strike 3.
Nice breaking ball right there to get the first out of the inning. Southshore now 2 outs away from solidifying their spot on Friday.
That will bring up Ben McNally. McNally 0 for 1 with a sacrifice fly.
And regardless of the outcome, Joe, we knew going into Thursday we were going to have a rematch. 2 of the semifinalists from last year's tournament. And they will now go into that matchup. It looks to be at a 2-0 record.
Well, Nick, you know, I said it earlier, and perhaps I jinxed it, but it seemed like North Shore had found their stride at the plate earlier in this game.
They were early.
Well, they only have 3 hits, so
yeah.
It seems like they've done much more than that at the plate in this game.
They've been accredited with a couple of walks. There was an error as well. But they had their hits early in this game. These last couple of innings have unfortunately gotten away from them.
Also, before we sign off, you have to look up that Kool-Aid Man skit and see who the comedian was. I can't believe I forgot. When you say his name, it is going to kill me inside. I grew up with that skit. That pitch misses high.
Dane Cook?
Dane Cook,
There you go.
Can't believe I forgot. That routine now has to be almost 15 years old.
I have not heard the name Dane Cook in a while.
Have you ever heard the skit?
I have heard the skit. I just haven't, I haven't heard Dane Cook's name in maybe years.
I remember back when Dane Cook was big. Jeff Dunham was also really big.
Yeah.
And I went to a Jeff Dunham show with my family. My first exposure to him, I had never seen any Jeff Dunham material. I was taken aback when I realized that it was conversations with puppets. But it worked for me in small doses. Not sure you could do some of those skits I saw today. Might be problematic.
Just a bit. Just a bit.
Comedy's timeless. And that pitch is on the low inside corner. And I think things have reached a boiling point for North Shore here.
Oh, I don't want to say it, Joe, but that was another one where Giacchio framed that one very nicely.
Yeah. He did frame it well, and I think that's going to prompt a pitching change due to pitch count. But credit to Torres. He pitched well, and
he's got to finish with 56.
Alex Torres will exit the game with his team leading by 7. And North Shore down to their final out. Renner Mejia will be their last chance at the plate. Well, Joe Iracy coming into the game, we assumed that his last name was pronounced Iracy because we have an Anthony Iracy on the College of Staten Island baseball team. Not sure if there's any relation, so we assumed Iracy was correct. But PA just said Arachi, so I guess it's a coin flip either way. But with that, we'll step aside and take a break. South Shore leading by 7. North Shore down to their final out, looking to stay alive in pool play.
Attention local businesses and professionals. Isn't it time to elevate your game? Now you can advertise your business or product on PDF Sports Network. Your ad will appear on all of our broadcasts, including this one. Don't have a commercial? We'll make one for you, absolutely free. What better way to showcase your product and brand while supporting the best local sports, teams, and leagues? Call now at 732-723-8189 or visit us at pdfsportsnet.com.
And we're back from South Shore Little League, where the score is 10-3. North Shore down to their final out here in the 6th inning, but pitch count necessitated a pitching change on the side of South Shore.
Joe, my heart's been broken. Balloon is happy that the Mets are winning 3-2 in the 8th inning.
Oof.
It's tough.
I mean, I have to admit, I guess as a Phillies fan, I would root against the Mets, but I do have Mets season tickets, so I have to root for the Mets.
You've been to more Mets games than Yankee games.
I have to root for the Mets only because I have season tickets. Want to know the count on Renner Mejia, and that's tapped to the right side, played at first, and stepping on the bag to end the ball game was Grippo. And with that, South Shore will send the gloves to the sky as they have advanced to the semifinal round of the 2024 New York State Little League Baseball Championship. And Nick, as a consequence of this win, their opponent on Thursday, Massapequa Coast, will also join them in the semis.
Yeah, congratulations to both Southshore and Massapequa Coast. They are now officially going to the semifinals, and they will face each other on Thursday in a matchup of two 2-0 teams. And this is an interesting game, Joe, obviously. We had a Grippo home run leading to a 4-1 lead for Southshore. Northshore would cut it back to a one-run game with 2 runs in that third inning, but then Southshore really took advantage from there on in, scoring 6 unanswered runs. We had that big bounce that from the infield went into the outfield that led to a bloop single, I should say, to the outfield that gave Southshore some more insurance runs. They would add on some more in the next inning in the 5th, and they would win this one 10-3. The same fortunate similar result for North Shore that they had in Game 1 against Massapequa Coast.
This game was a roller coaster ride in every sense for the first 3 innings, but you said it, Nick, that wild bounce on the infield and then the bloop single into center really propelled Southshore forward and had to be demoralizing for North Shore as they did not score again in the last 3 innings of this game, going on to lose by 7 runs. Of course, with the loss, North Shore's season will end here as they are now 0-2 in pool play. With the South Shore victory, EGC also sees their season come to a very difficult end, obviously given the circumstances of the game earlier tonight. So once more before we sign off, we'll set the stage for tomorrow and for Thursday. Tomorrow at 9:30, we come on the air for a parade into the Great Kills Little League Complex. That is followed by the skills competition at 10 a.m. That is expected to conclude around noon, and then a picnic will be hosted at Great Kills Little League. Tomorrow night, the teams will all be recognized at the home of the Staten Island Ferryhawks, Staten Island University Hospital Community Park. We move on to Thursday, looking ahead. As we mentioned before, the games in the morning are the games that will have implications moving forward into the semifinal round. Early on Thursday, Plattsburgh takes on Penfield at 10 a.m. Penfield will be the home team. Plattsburgh must win to stay alive. Their chances to move on are slim. However, Penfield with a win puts themselves in great position to potentially move on, but that will still be contingent on the result of the Auburn-Harrison game. If Harrison wins that game, combined with a Penfield win, Nick, we're going to have 3 2-1 teams, and that's going to make for a very interesting situation, and we'll have to see how that unfolds. We'll crunch the numbers and hopefully come back to you with some more on that for Thursday. But until then, this has been Joe Foreman alongside Nick Bavona on the call. Once again, our final score, South Shore 10, North Shore 3. We'll see you again tomorrow morning